Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I believe we need a constitutional amendment that protects the right to vote for every American citizen and to make sure that vote gets counted. We need to put some federal muscle behind that. And we need to repeal every one of the voter suppression laws that is out there right now. And I'll tell you one more. We need to make sure that every vote counts. And I want to push that right here in Mississippi, because I think this is an important point. You know, come a general election, presidential candidates don't come to places like Mississippi. That's true. Yeah. They also don't come to places like California and Massachusetts, right? Because we're not the battleground states. Well, my view is that every vote matters. And the way we can make that happen is that we can have national voting, and that means get rid of the Electoral College and everybody.
Listen to that.
I think everybody ought to have to come and ask for your vote. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, that got the largest applause I've ever heard in a town hall for any issue. And this is Mississippi, where they know a couple of things. They know there's massive voter suppression going on, and they also know that they're that if they are felons or for a non-violent offense, and they've completed all their required court service and their whatever it was, have paid their fines, and they still can't vote for the rest of their lives. They understand what that's about down there. Okay, they are not unfamiliar with literacy tests down there. They are not unfamiliar with count the jelly beans in the jar kinds of things. They are not unfamiliar with voter suppression and moving the polling place outside of Jackson where there's no transportation, whatever. But they also understand that their vote is diluted by the people who aren't suppressed. And so Mississippi, in every politician's mind, appears in their head as a big red state. A red state that, nobody goes to, because the Electoral College is going to decide not, who all the electors go vote for at the end of the whole process. That is ridiculous, and I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. Here, look, I don't want to bring up, Hillary and Trump and blah, 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 because, that's it's happened. It's done. But Hillary did win the popular vote by 3 million votes. She did. And Donald Trump won some of the Midwestern states like Michigan and Wisconsin by less than 22,000 votes. Something really weird happened there, that you could have 3 million people want somebody for president, but 22,000 people in Wisconsin or, 20,000 people in Michigan wanted a different guy. And so the entire Electoral College goes to the guy who did not win the popular vote. Now, here's another little factoid about this. Republicans have won the White House 3 of the last 5 presidential elections. Guess how many of those Republicans won the popular vote? We've had 5 elections, 3 Republicans won. How many of those 3 Republicans who won got the popular vote? Right, one. W in 2004. And that's because he was a wartime president, right? We were right in the middle of, recovering from, the Saudis attacking us and us having to go invade Afghanistan and bomb Iraq. I don't know. But yeah, it's just so strange. It's so strange that the people who don't win the majority of the votes in the world's greatest democracy, the people that don't win, get to be president of the United States. And that is a function of the wholly inadequate Electoral College, which was designed back in the day. It's part of the Constitution to protect slave states who wanted to protect the slave trade. That is why we have it. And it is time to get rid of it. And it is time to have one, there is no, this is, when I tell people this, they get, crazy, and then they start to check it out, which is good. I want you to do that. Don't believe a word I say. Just go look it up for yourself. So there is nothing in the Constitution that guarantees you the right to vote. Nothing. Absolutely nothing in the Constitution guarantees you the right to vote. What is in the Constitution is that the states may choose the manner in which electors are selected. That's it. So the states control whether or not you have a right to vote. That is antiquated. That is ridiculous, because we know in some states they're going to make you count jelly beans. And in other states, they're going to move your polling place so far away that you don't have a prayer of getting there. And in other places, they're going to come and pretend that your absentee ballot can be collected by a man who wants to fill them out himself, or by a man who wants to throw them away if you fill them out in a way that his client didn't like. I mean, there's so much electoral fraud. There's very little voter fraud. We know of the one girl in Texas who got 5 years in prison because she went ahead and voted and didn't understand that she was prohibited because she apparently was a felon. I mean, tax evasion was her crime. Tax evasion. Yeah. Sounds worse than it is when you realize that, it's tax time now. And if you make a mistake, right, you too. So, and then you'll lose your right to vote for the rest of your life. It's just ridiculous. So there are many issues around voting, but the big one is that there is nothing in the federal Constitution that provides you with a right to vote. And that has got to change. We could live in a country where there's one manner in which everybody participates on a predetermined date or dates for voting to choose the leader of the free freaking world. And I agree with this. I have agreed with this for a very long time. You have to remember where I was broadcasting and who I was in 2000 when Bush v. Gore actually happened. I was just a local broadcaster down here. I was working for WJNO in West Palm Beach, and 36 days, this Bush v. Gore case went through the court system. It went through the state court system, and then a parallel lawsuit, which was filed by W, went through the feds. Okay? And the reason why Gore went through the states is because the states were the ones who got to choose the manner in which the electors would be selected. So he thought the natural place to bring but Bush, he went to the feds and ended up in the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the Florida Supreme Court decided that we should continue to count the votes, and that the votes needed to be hand counted until they were done. But Bush went through the feds and the U.S. Supreme Court. They said, oh, stop counting the votes. Just stop it already. For, just this one time, we're going to choose the next president of the United States. I mean, that was such an affront. And still, all these 19 years later, people do not understand that they do not have a constitutional right to vote, and that should have been the big blazing sign in your face saying, we need to change this. Change needs to happen. And it hasn't. And it hasn't. You know why? Because amending the Constitution is difficult. Difficult. And America doesn't do the difficult things anymore. We lowered the voting age to 18 during the Vietnam era because we were sending 18 and 19-year-olds over there to lose their lives, to become addicted to heroin, see some of the most grotesque things that life could produce on this hellhole of a planet. and then ignoring them. And so they were, I mean, you could be drafted, but you couldn't vote. So we managed to change the Constitution. We managed. But for some strange reason, Republicans love to tell you what you can't do, what we can't do, what America can't do. They're very busy pointing out what we can't do. Oh, what do you want the president to say about white supremacy and the rise of white supremacy? That is what Mulvaney said on the TV shows. Well, what do you want from what do you want him to do? Be a leader and say there is no place in this country for hatred as a policy. Hatred is not a policy. Hatred is not. It's not a platform to run on. Yeah, but it's too much for him. Too much for him because his base. His base. They love to hate. But we can do tough stuff. You would have to get 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. I know, but that's what it would take. 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and 3/4 of the state. Now, there are other ways to go about it. There are some compacts that are being discussed between the states who have a small amount of electoral votes to try and, band together to join us in saying the popular vote should carry the day. So this is a policy that's in progress. I will tell you that the first bill, the very first one, to end the Electoral College is 30 years old. You know who introduced it? It was called H.R. 40, and it was introduced by poor Representative John Conyers, who did get booted out for, pinching women and doing some crazy stuff. And now you have Sheila Jackson Lee, the Democratic House member from Texas, reintroducing it. H.R. 40 is the bill. I can't express to you how important that is, because if the message would not be sent to states like Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, even Texas, which is, starting to turn a little purpley, but if the message would be sent to all voters of those states that are almost habitually red, that their vote doesn't matter because it's habitually a red state, and you might disagree with that, but why vote because it doesn't matter, then we would have more voter participation, not less. And wouldn't that be a goal worth getting? Wouldn't that be an amendment to the Constitution worth having? Wouldn't guaranteeing federal voting rights be overdue in this country? So I loved that. I loved it last night. I loved it. I like that boot edge. He brought it up. He's all down with it. A lot of people are starting to look at it, especially people who live in traditionally red states who understand that it doesn't matter if they vote because there are more people who are going to vote the other way and they get diluted. Their votes don't count. That's sick. That's sad. That's wrong. So I was thrilled. Now, last night I got to tell you, she is policy fluent. And I think Elizabeth Warren gets a bad rap because she's so policy fluent. And, a lot of people look at her and think she's all policy, no personality, or she's all policy, no personal story. That's incorrect. And I tell you, I was like, and any candidate that does this for me, I'm going to, just sing their praises. I don't care who. I mean, it could be, you could have Bet. Oh! Do it. Kamala could do it if she wanted. Boot Edge. Kirsten, she kind of, deflated me last night. Julian Castro, Joe Biden is about to announce. Whoever does this for me, whoever gets me going like this, that's what we need. You know what? I saw a poll today. This is just so unbelievable. I saw a poll today that only 40% of Americans are enthusiasm about 2020. And of those 40%, 57% are Republicans. Yeah, 40% are enthusiastic. And of those 40%, 57% are Republicans. Of those 40%, 46% who are enthusiastic are Democrats. And that has everything to do with the way these candidates campaign. It's going to have everything to do with their policies and the way that they present them. it's going to have everything to do with populism for the middle class for real without the racism. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.